Hi, Natasha.
I'm good, you're all right.
Not too bad, thank you. Thank you for taking your time to speak to us today.
No problem, no problem.
Um, I want to start with how's life been since that famous night in the Matchroom Garden? I know you've been getting a lot of support from everyone, and how's it been ever since?
Yeah, I think I finally dusted off the open off loss and people are judging me by actually, what I always wanted to be judged on was you know, I always knew I was um I always knew how good I was. I just hadn't really showed it as a pro and then I lost to open off and then it was climbing back up the ladder and get yourself recognised. So it's been emotional, but it's been a good journey and I'm in a good place mentally, physically, and I'm just trying to keep myself busy in preparation to hopefully get in a fight before the end of the year.
I think if anyone criticizes you for that, I think they need to go watch the fight again because I know it, you know it, and the world knows it that you clearly won that fight. So thing is, for anyone to criticize you, I think they're just being biased about it because I think that night, anyone that didn't know who Natasha Jonas was or didn't know much about her knew who she was that night, and I think you captured the nation's heart that night.
Cheers, thank you. Yeah, it's just it's just a job at the end of the day. It's our boxing careers on the line, and you know I, I thought I won. When I watch it back, I thought I won even more clearly than I did on the night, but it wasn't to be, and I can't dwell on it because I want to be a world champion, and I haven't got that status right now. So I've just got to keep banging on the doors and doing what I have to do to make sure that I can get them opportunities.
What was it like being in that bubble at the Matchroom headquarters? For example, you're used to fighting in front of a crowd, and then to not have a crowd, and you can hear clearly your coach, their coach. You can hear a pin drop. How was that atmosphere? How did you adapt to that?
It was mad doing it as a pro because obviously it's something that's never been done before. But we have been part of the excuse me, the Great Britain setup for a very long time. We'd be going to countries and tournaments in different countries in the middle of nowhere. So the only people that were there were the staff and the referees and judges and the teams competing. So it wasn't something that was brand new to me. I'd done that and experienced that before. But it was just it was crazy, and I could hear every beautiful that Steffi was shouting, and it was mad that you could hear that as a pro, and um, I think it actually may have benefited me um, in one way, in the sense of like the pressures that you do have in the crowd, and some people play up to the crowd, but then I think if the crowd was there cheering every shot that I landed, that it also could have swayed the judges more. So there was pros and cons for the crowd not being there.
Would you love to do it again? I know, like the crowd make the fight, but to be in that atmosphere because when it first got announced, a lot of people would be like, but then after the first event, I started to like it. I'm not saying I don't want the crowd to come back, but I actually started to love like being able to hear the coaches and the camera and the mic go into the corners and you can hear what they're saying. So I thought it was amazing, but I missed that sweet Caroline, in the
Yeah,
stadium and in there. So
yeah, yeah. It's mad for us because it's mad because even when I'm not fighting now and I watch TV and one of our lads is boxing, I can always pick up on Joe's voice, like crowd, whatever. I can always hear what he's saying in the ring, during the ring. I can always hear it. So it's mad that like now everybody hears that. You can just hear what they're saying, and it's a good insight, for what happens between rounds when you think your boxer's down, when you think your boxer's up, what tactic was, what the game plan was. It's good for the fans to be able to hear that because you're not, some fans are just turning on and watching for that fight. They don't, you don't necessarily might know the art of boxing. You just turn it on for the fight, and it's good that you can get the backstory and you can listen to what's being said.
Yeah, so I think they should do that in all sports. I think like they should have in football, for example, they should have the mic on the bench and you can hear the coach and what they're saying to the players before they come on and while they're warming up. I think it's a great insight, and I believe it's a great inspiration for anyone. For example, the boxing side, anyone that is an up and coming boxer or wants to become a boxer or wants to become a boxing coach, to see what these great coaches are telling their fighters, and I think it will be a great inspiration to them and it might even push people to get more into sports.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got to know your fighter because every fight is different. Some people, need guiding through a fight. Some people need you better do this now. They need telling exactly what they want to do. Some people, you know what I mean? So you've got to know your fighters, and every fight is different. So it's good, even as a coach, seeing how you combat that as a coach, because the way I am might not be the same as Callum Smith is, who's not the same as Callum Johnson, who's not the same as Liam Smith. So you have to know your fighter and know what's needed at that time, at that moment, to get the best from them. And I think during the camp, it was one of the very few camps where I kind of had Joe all to myself. No one else had a date. No one else was preparing for anything. Obviously, we'd come back off a lockdown. The restrictions had just been lifted. So it was me and Joe. By that time, I'd snapped with Joe. He'd snapped at me. We'd done this. I mean, we've done the whole pro journey together anyway. But this was a camp where literally it was me and Joe. So by the time the 10 weeks was over, he knew exactly what made me tick. He knew what, he knew the ins and outs of everything.
I think it's great in that sense, because when a coach has a big stable and when he's alone with his fighter and he doesn't have to focus on his other fighters' up and coming fights, I think that's when the best chemistry comes between the fighter and the coach, and you then what makes them tick and what doesn't. And I think you got lucky in that sense with the lockdown being lifted and you was alone with him and he didn't have to focus on his other fighters who had no fights coming up.
Yeah, even throughout lockdown, we was keeping in touch, and he was like, I've read this good book, I've seen this good thing, and I'd be like, oh, have you seen this one? Have you seen The Last Dance and all this? So we were still exchanging information. So by the time it came to be into actually we was allowed to be together, as in train together, we'd already been on this psychological journey already in preparation to going into the fight. So we was already mentally in a good place between us because we'd shared that information, and we were like, oh, what did you think of that? And we were like, yeah, that was good. But did you see that? And did you? I can see where I go wrong here. And we were already on that. So by the time we got into camp, we were ready to do the work because mentally we was in a good place.
A question from my colleague Jermaine. He's part of Bells and Whistle Sport. He is a huge fan of yours. He was, when I say angry, after what the judges decided after that fight. He wants to know, what's it like training at the Gallagher gym with such a big stable and a great stable like Joe and Anthony Crowler and the likes of Callum and Liam Smith, Callum Johnson, and so on?
I think it's everyone has got a different personality, and I think that's what makes the gym work. There's no egos that clash, or no, we've got our funny man, we've got our motivation person. We've got everyone's personality is slightly different, and although we have fun and we have a laugh, when we're all there training towards a goal, we all know it's time to work, and we drag each other through the sessions. So there's nothing better in Gallagher's when everybody's got a date, because then if you think you can slack during a session, someone's going to pull you up on it, and then you have to keep upping your game. And obviously, in boxing, you're forever trying to better yourself and improve, and that happens during every camp with every single one of us. So we'll always push each other. And just because I'm the only female, Joe still doesn't have it. He's like, no, you're doing exactly what the lads do. And sometimes don't get there as quickly as they do, but I do exactly everything they do.
What did it mean to you that the two brothers were there to support you that night?
Oh, it was a nice surprise. I didn't know they were going to be there at all. But yeah, that's just like a credit to the people that they are, and the way that we are in the gym. It is like a home away from home, and I probably spend a lot more time with the lads in the gym than I do at home with my own family. So they are like another family, and I've obviously known them since I started the sport, since the Rotunda days. When it's been a long journey, so it was nice to be able to, them to be there.
It's amazing that you guys have that chemistry and you work as a team. So it's good to have support from your stable mates as well. So that must have been a great surprise as well.
Yeah, it was. I'm unofficially one of the lads. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I'm a girl, and it's obviously I'm a girl and whatever, a female, but I am like just one of the. I'm just a boxer at the end of the day. That's the way Joe treats it. That's the way the lads see it. So
it's good not to like that. They don't make you feel like not part of the group. So to be one of the lads is great. So it's good that you guys have that chemistry there.
Yeah, I think the only Smith that I haven't been punched by is Paul.
It's Paul. I want to talk to you. You've obviously, you've been professional about it and you've been humble about it since the Harper fight. But this week, how I saw that you tweeted Steffy Ball and you said that if they really wanted the rematch, it would have been done. Do you believe that because I would say they underestimated you and they saw how great you are? Do you think they swayed towards the excuse of, oh, we got to do a mandatory now, and went towards Katharina Thandes instead of giving you that rematch?
Yeah, I've since been told that it was requested, and that was before I requested that MTK put an appeal in so that we could fight again and have the rematch. So that was me point behind the tweet, and I seen a few things that Steffi had put out, and it annoyed me that they make it out like they had to do it. You didn't. It was requested on your behalf. Do you know what I mean? So if you and we've seen in the men's game and in the women's game, if someone needs to be stepped aside, they can be. When it's someone as powerful a promoter as Eddie Hearn, anything can anything can happen, and fights can happen and other fights can't. You don't need to have the mandatory necessarily. And like, respect to Thanders, because she's earned it, and so I don't begrudge Thanders her opportunity, but at the same time I just don't want it to be seen like, oh, Terry's done what she has to do, because that wasn't ever the case.
To be honest, I messaged Jermaine, like we were we like to watch fights, and then if we're not together because of because we weren't together that night, we like to comment on each round. Every time there's a fight, we'll voice note each other and say what our opinion is. And even with the interviews, etc. And after the fight, first thing I said to him is, you can, after they interviewed you and then they interviewed Terri, you can see in Terri's face she didn't want that rematch. As much as she said, I want it, Steffy Ball as well. I said to them, they're gonna dodge this rematch as much as they can, and they did it. And
yeah,
the thing is, if it's not meant to be, then you will become world champion one way, and maybe karma might hit that Thundress might win that title, and you might end up fighting Thundress, and it's meant to be that you fight her.
Yeah, anything can happen, and I think she's gone from one to another, but I think her confidence will be slightly dented. And like you say, Tanders is coming off wins. She's not coming off a
She
hard.
beat Rachel Ball. She gave Rachel Ball her first loss, and I watched that fight. I've seen it. I didn't watch it live. I watched the whole fight on YouTube. She's a good fighter, and she
Yeah,
can
she's
hit.
very skilled. Yeah, I've seen that. So yeah, I think going into the fight, obviously I was a big underdog anyway, but there was things we literally. I've never had a camp like it. Like, we literally covered every single base. If she was going to run at me, we had a plan. If she was going to stand up and try and box me, we had a plan. If she was going to stand toe to toe, we had a plan. So, like, everything was covered. But there was things that I thought, watching and studying in the lead up to the fight, that I thought were a strong point. And in the fight, I don't think that there was. So I think, when or if the rematch ever does happen, everyone's like, "Oh, that was her best." Talking about me, that was her best performance. She can't outdo that again. She can't. They'll be sadly mistaken, and if the Harper team think that, they'll be badly mistaken as well. There's
100.
lots of improvement for myself, and I hope that she does improve, but I think I improve more.
100%. Is there obviously like he did make the fight, but is there any bad feelings, or you think that maybe Eddie Hearn could have pushed for that rematch? Do you think maybe he's protecting his fighter?
A little bit. I think, Eddie's going to do what he's doing. He's a businessman first and foremost, and he's, Terri is one of his is not only his fighters but his champion. So he's going to do everything that he can to retain the belt and keep it with matchroom. So I don't necessarily blame Eddie, but I am frustrated that, he said, like, oh, there was other opportunities there and stuff, but what he was offering wasn't what I believed it was worth it. You know what I mean? And I think even Heather Hardy said, the offer that she got, she wouldn't even go on a diet for. So that just like kind of sums it up. He's dangling me a little bit of a carrot, but there's not really much of a carrot there when you see it all in all. And nobody ever talks figures in boxing and stuff, and no one ever talks about the offers that have been made, but he was trying to, like, contract you to rubbish, really. And I think by being Miss Morals, it's kind of backfired. But I'm willing to stand by that, because I believe that I'm worth more, and I believe that regardless of, as long as I keep plugging away and doing what I need to do, eventually it's going to have to come to a stage where it's me versus her anyway.
100%. You answered my question. I was going to ask that. He did do an interview at IFL TV, and he said it. And I was going to ask if there's any truth that he wants to give you the Heather Hardy fight, and you've answered it for me. For me, when I first heard that, I was thinking what you just said. I'm thinking, what is the point of that fight? You drew. You didn't lose. You drew, so you're entitled to a rematch. So for me, there's no point in it. Like, even if for a big payday, it's not worth it. If anything, offer someone.
It wasn't a big payday either.
There you
That
go.
was the best part. And to be fair, I actually requested if I could fight Hamadouche, but what they were offering was awful. It wasn't worth it. And I don't want to be, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be like big headed or anything, but I've established myself at a world level, so I don't want to be going down. I want to be challenging for titles. I haven't got a lot of time left. I am getting on in age and in the sport, and I want to do it as quickly as possible. And there was a lot of ifs and buts in his offer, but there was no, right, well, this is what will be done, this is how we'll do it. There was just, yeah, well, and if that one wins and if you win, then maybe we'll do that. And nothing was ever cemented. And it wasn't, he didn't actually say to me, he did say Heather Hardy, but I learned that from Twitter, but he said Heather Hardy or someone of her Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Sorry, yeah. The last thing you said was Heather Hardy.
I think the
Can you?
baby's messing with their YouTube upstairs. I mean, with the box upstairs.
That's okay. You mentioned you learned about the Heather Hardy fight on Twitter. He actually mentioned it on IFL TV, which shocked
Yeah.
of us really. He was mentioning, the Rachel Ball fight. He didn't mention obviously the opponent, but then he mentioned that fight. And you know what, we looked at each other and thought, why? Like this point. But hopefully you can get a mandatory fight or just fight straight away the winner of the Katharina fight.
Yeah, I'd love to be fighting now. I mean, Rachel Ball, Katie Taylor, Terri herself, they was all on the same, fight camp thing that I was, and they're all back out. And now, now, I'm not boxing because, well, I don't know. I actually, we couldn't agree for a fee for the Hamadouche fight, and then when we finally did, like he was saying, oh, there's not enough time for her to prepare. So, like, in my eyes, I don't feel like I've done anything wrong. In fact, I know I haven't done anything wrong. I just wouldn't tie myself into a contract that was a lot of ifs and buts.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to fight. Well, I'm training like I've got a date coming up because hopefully I'll get out before the end of the year. If not with Matchroom, then with MTK some on some show somewhere.
I would love for him to put you on the AJ Pulev undercard. That would be amazing. December.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, it just gives me more time to prepare.
Yeah.
I always thought I was going to be on the 14th card, but obviously that's not the case now. So, yeah, we'll see. Whatever. Like I said, I'm ready. I'm training, and I want to be fighting again before the end of the year.
Speaking of the 14 card, how many women's boxing that a lot of there's more women's fights on TV now, more world title fights, and the fact that he's doing an all female card, 3 world title fights. How amazing is that?
Yeah, we've come a long way. From Jane Couch before us, who even struggled to get on screen, to the way it is now. And Katie Taylor does lead the way in that. I think she's done so many things for the amateurs, and she's doing it. That's reverted over into the pros. But we as women always knew, women's boxing at its highest level is just as good as the men's. We just needed the world to see it. We needed promoters to back it. We needed the corporate sponsorships to, fund us and support us and make us the athletes that that the males are. We go through camps, and our team costs the same. Our our coaches, our trainers, our managers, our strength and conditioning coaches, our nutritionalists, our sparring partners, our household bills, the petrol to the trainer and back, gym fees, they all cost the same. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. It all costs the same. So why should we be paid or thought of any less for doing exactly the same?
100%. 100%. Chantel Cameron last week became world champion. What did you think of her performance?
Me and Chantel go back a long way. We've obviously come through the GB and Olympic cycles together, and she was my main sparring partner for the Harper camp. And yeah, you just know. As a boxer and as obviously part of being the training camps and stuff, you see all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. People will only look at that fight and think of it, oh yeah, that 30 minutes that she was in the ring, it was good performance and whatever. But you don't see the weeks and weeks of training, and even when she crossed over from kickboxing to boxing, and coming winning that ABAs and coming through GBs and the ups and downs she had on the GB team, and still she persisted with it, came through it, has fought away to be the number one contender, and then to get it. I was so made up for that because, like I say, you you can see and understand the behind the scenes part that nobody else does. You know, the highs in boxing are so high, and you're forever chasing them highs, but then the lows, you know, are rock bottom. And you know, it was her night that night, and she didn't lose a round, and rightly so. Like she boxed unbelievable, and it was what was owed was coming.
I've been raving about Chantel Cameron for a very long time, and she is such a great talent, and she deserves it. I'm so happy that she finally got her chance, and she finally got to win her world title. Bigger fights coming up for her, big future. Jermaine from Bells and Whistle Sport again wants to know, despite the friendship there, is that a fight that one day you would like to have?
It be look. I want a title fight, so whichever form that comes in. But I think, you know, with the history that we've got, and like with the camp that we just had going in, it'd be tough to fight someone, because we like I believe that we grew very close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be like Callum Johnson fighting Callum Smith.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be tough to do that. That being said, you can never say never, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't like to do that, to be honest. There's lots of other champions and other belts that I could go for, and you know, I think she, you know, let her have what she's got. She's worked hard for it. It's a belt. It's a moment. And I think as well in that fight, Chantel's known for having a good engine, and being able to punch and putting her shots together well. But I think in that fight she showed her footwork as well, and there was a different side and a different bow, another bow to her string, which, you know, cause other fighters a lot of problems.
Yeah, 100%. She did a great performance. Is the next step for women's boxing a big stadium fight, all women's, and the main event being a women's world title fight? For example, Wembley Stadium and Katie Taylor versus Natasha Jonas.
Listen, then yeah, I think, you know, again, we just need that support, media, sponsors, promoters, um, and anything is possible. The UFC have shown that they can do it. The tennis have shown that they can do it.
Yeah.
The athletics have shown that they can do it. It doesn't matter in them sports what gender you are. People turn up to watch because they're promoted right and published right, and supported and endorsed. And that's exactly what women's boxing needs. And once we get that right, you know, the kind of old thoughts of to women's boxing, I don't like that that kind of fades away, because you have no option either to deal with it or don't watch. And you know, I think
100%.
them kind of, like, that kind of thought anyway, is a thing of the past. And you know, when mine and Terry's fight was announced, there was very, very few negative comments. It was more about, I'm surprised it's not a pay-per-view, than it being a women's title fight. And that's the way it should be. You know, that's the way it should be.
100%. That fight for me should have been the main event. It should have been.
Yeah,
And
but yeah, as for me and Katie, I would love to do that. You know, Boston, New York, Madison Square Garden,
yeah.
Wembley, Cardiff, Ireland. You know, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to go into the lines. Then I'll go anywhere. So yeah.
Anfield.
Sorry.
Anfield.
Oh yeah, Anfield. Yeah, definitely 100%.
Natasha, on behalf of me and Bells and Whistle Sport, we want to wish you all the best of luck in the future, and we hope that you get that title fight that you deserve, because, like I said before, you should be standing there as the world champion. But hopefully, when I interview you again, you'll be there with that green belt. So,
Oh yeah, green and gold, green and gold. It's still on my phone now.
I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. It's been an honor, and I wish you all the best of luck in the future.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thanks for your support. Thank you.
Always. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you. See you later.
Bye bye.